Good evening, and welcome to the part two of the Woman in the Mirror series entitled The Balancing Act. Over the next 25 minutes, we're going to examine this seemingly elusive concept of life balance. We're going to discuss some vital truths that are necessary in order to establish balance. We're also going to discuss how you can obtain balance in your own life. Next, we will discuss the power in those two little letters, N-O. We will also talk about how to maintain the balance once you get it. And lastly, we're going to look at how our choices affect life balance. So let's jump right in and start off by addressing the question, what is life balance? Now, I've taken a combination of two of my favorite definitions of life balance and I've merged them into one definition that you can see on your screen. This definition adequately sums up what life balance really is. It states that life balance is the ability to focus on the core areas of your life for the appropriate amount of time such that you're able to thrive in them all in a manner that leaves you without guilt or internal conflict. The key being that you're able to focus on all the areas in your life that are important to you. Do well in each of those areas, and while you're operating in one area, you are fully present in that moment without guilt about time not being spent in another area. And this really is the challenge of establishing life balance to be able to thrive in each area of our lives without neglecting the other areas. Now, be warned. Living a balanced life does not mean that you will somehow manage to be able to spend equal time in every area of your life. Life balance also does not mean that life will be perfect every day, nor does it mean a life without challenges, pressure, or stress. Because just as sure as you live, there will be days that are chaotic. There will be days when it just seems like there's a lot going on. But see, life balance gives you the added benefit of being able to focus on a specific area and handle all that's going on in that particular area without feeling guilt about not spending time in another area of your life. We have to understand that life balance is not something that you reach once and maintain forever. Rather, it is a continual process to maintain and live a balanced life. Now, if you're like most women, you may play many roles or even wear many hats. At times, the pressure of life can leave you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and if we're honest, at times we can feel downright burnt out. And see, when we get to that point, we often find it hard to make time for those things that we enjoy. We often find it hard to break that cycle that we find ourselves in. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever said to yourself that everything is important and everything has to get done? So in your mind, it was up to you to figure out a way to get it done. So what do? You continue and press forward doing the things that you feel that you got to get done, all the while just longing for a few minutes of me time, longing for just a few minutes to do the things that you enjoy. Well, for anyone who's ever felt this way, I'm here to tell you tonight that there is hope. There is a way to have balance in your life, to do the things that you must do without feeling like you've lost you in the process. Now, before we get too far into the discussion on establishing life balance, there are some truths that we must embrace and we must accept in order to live a balanced life. So I want to take a moment and go through 5 truths that are vital to living a balanced life. Truth number 1, you cannot do it all. As women, we often pride ourselves on being able to handle it, regardless of whatever the it is. But see, the truth of the matter is, there's not a red S emblazoned on your chest. You are not Superwoman. As much as you want to be there for everyone, the truth of the matter is that you cannot do it all. As a matter of fact, take a moment and repeat these words after me. I am talented and I am gifted. However, even as gifted and talented as I am, I cannot do it all. Truth number 2. Recognize that a stressed out, burnt out you is really not better than no you at all. Actually, it's worse. What do I mean by that? Well, we tend to make so many commitments, and then when we show up for the commitments, we can only give 50% of ourselves because we're so tired from all the other things that we've committed ourselves to. We often are physically present, but our mind is on one of the other 10 things that we still have yet to get done. So we tend to be more irritable, less patient, and less able to deliver the quality that our commitment deserves. I submit to you tonight that if you can't commit 100% of you, it's probably better not to commit at all. Truth number 3. You will never be able to please everybody all the time, and it's not your responsibility to try. As women, we love to make others happy. It fuels us, and for many women, it gives them a sense of validation to know that they're able to please someone else. Now, while we're all commissioned as Christians to care for others, God never intended you to take on the burden of trying to be the one to make everyone happy. You can bend over backwards trying to please a person, but the truth of the matter is, if they aren't filled with joy from the inside, then they will never truly be happy. Your good deed, it will only provide temporary happiness. Because, see, true joy and contentment, it comes from the inside. It is God who satisfies. It is God who gives joy unspeakable. Truth number 4. Every good thing is not necessarily a God thing. There are some things that we take on in life because God would have us to do so. And then there are other things that we're doing simply because we want to do it. Or maybe it's something we've always done. A key to establishing life balance is identifying those things that we truly should be doing. What are those areas that we really should be operating in? We have to always remember that just because it's a good thing to do doesn't mean it is the thing that God purposed you to do. Truth number 5. Lastly, we have to know that there is only one who can be all things to all people all the time, and He is God. If you will ever have life balance, you have to accept that you cannot be everybody's everything. You are not humanly equipped to be there for everybody. God did not design you to do so. So instead of us trying to play many gods, let us point others to the one and only true and living God who is able to be all things for all people all the time. So now that we've looked at these truths that we have to embrace and that we have to accept, let us go ahead and take a look at the steps that it takes to establish a balanced life. The first step in establishing a balanced life is determining what a balanced life looks like for you. Now, regardless of how much you hear on the topic or how much you read on the topic of life balance, the truth of the matter is that only you can determine what a balanced life looks like for you. The pictorial of what a balanced life looks like is very individual because only you can determine what makes life meaningful to you. Others can tell you how to obtain a balanced life, but only you know what balance looks like for your life. So, in order to know when you have achieved the balance that you are desiring, you must first know what that looks like. So, ask yourself, what does a balanced life look like for me? As you begin on your journey to establishing a more balanced life, take some time and really think and ponder the answer to that question. Then take time and write down your answer and post it in a place where you can see it on a regular basis. Because this is your goal. This is what you're aiming for in your quest to establish life balance. So as you go from day to day, this is the pictorial that you want to keep in your mind of what you're striving to obtain. Now, after determining what a balanced life looks like for you, the next step is to take an honest assessment of all the things that you're currently attached to. One of the keys in establishing life balance is not necessarily knowing how to keep all the balls in the air that you're juggling, but it's equally as important to know when to put some balls down. So begin to look at those things that you're currently doing, and even those things that you have in your mind that you want to do, but you just haven't picked up to start doing yet. Then begin to pray and ask God which of these things are the things that He would have you to do. See, oftentimes we overlook the importance of seeking God's direction and what we consider the mundane tasks of life. So when we're asked to volunteer for this committee, to go here, go there, to do this or do that, we often respond without hesitation or consideration as to whether this is really something that we should commit and attach ourselves to. See, it's only when we begin to feel overwhelmed that we begin to complain that there are simply not enough hours in the day. But I submit to you tonight that God, who is all knowing, created and designed each day with 24 hours. 24 hours to do all the things that He purposed for you to do on any given day. He knows those things that you have need of. He knows those things that are required for you to live. He knows everything that He has purposed for you to do, and yet still said 24 hours is enough to do it. If God knows that all you have to do and you only have 24 hours each day in which to do it, perhaps, just perhaps, some of the things that you think that you have to do aren't things that God would have for you to do in this day. So begin to take a serious look at all the things that you're attached to and ask yourself, is this a me thing or is this a God thing? Ask God, what are those things that I should be doing? Remember, every good thing is not necessarily your assignment. Because we have to understand that there is nothing wrong with feeding the homeless, volunteering at the blood bank, ministering at the shelter, having a career, chairing the committee for the neighborhood cookout, or serving on the PTA organization, or any of the many other obligations that you may have. The problem comes in when you try to do them all at once and then you begin to feel that by doing so, you're neglecting another area of your life. Remember, the first truth in establishing life balance is that you can't do it all. So again, pray, ask God, what are the areas that He would have you to operate in? Open up your word, seek your answers in the word. As you read, listen to His voice, take notes, and journal your thoughts. We have to remember that establishing life balance isn't an overnight thing. You may find that there are some things that you may need to put down for a season or even completely so that you can achieve the balance that you're looking for. While life balance is a very individual thing, true life balance cannot be attained nor maintained without God ordering your steps. Now, in order to establish and maintain a balanced life, we must learn to use the word that so many of us as women view as the naughty N word, the word no. Contrary to what you may think or what you may have even been taught, no is not a bad word. There is actually power in those two little letters. There is liberation and freedom often hidden behind those letters N-O. Let me ask you another question. How many times have you been asked to do something that you really didn't want to commit to, but you were afraid or even reluctant to say no because you thought it might even disappoint or cause an inconvenience to the person who was asking? So you go ahead and you say yes, when everything in you is screaming that you should say no. Has anyone ever been there? I know I have. As children, we're taught to be there for others and to help when we can. And all of this is true. And really, most of us, we master this principle. But many of us have never mastered the flip side of the coin that says we have to have a balanced approach in life, that we can't do everything all the time. We have to understand that saying no does not make us a bad person. Many times we're reluctant to tell others no because we don't want to come across as being mean, uncaring, or even selfish. But the truth is that it's absolutely not mean to say no. It is absolutely your right and your obligation when asked a question to answer truthfully and thoughtfully. This means that you don't have to answer right away. Take some time, pray, and consider your answer before just leaping into something new. So now that you've prayed, after you've consulted God and you've taken an assessment, it's then time to put some things into action. Because you see, there comes a time that we can no longer simply talk about things being different, but we must take steps to make things different. Now, again, this doesn't necessarily mean overhauling your life overnight, but it does mean taking steps, regardless of how small, toward the vision of what a balanced life looks like for you. What are those things that you're to put down? What are those areas in that you're to concentrate more on? For example, if a balanced life means being able to spend more time with your family, begin by looking at those things that take you away from spending time with your family. Perhaps you realize it's not the quantity of time that you spend with your family, perhaps it's the quality of the time that you all spend together. Ask yourself, what would make the time that you do spend together more meaningful? Is there a way to convert that time into quality time? Or perhaps you feel that you're so busy doing for everyone else that you have no time for you, no time for intimacy with God, no time for relaxation or social activities. Honestly, what's the worst that would happen if instead of doing the laundry tonight, you decide to take time for yourself? Perhaps you decide to take a bubble bath and spend time reading your favorite book. Yes, the laundry will still be there tomorrow. But I also submit that more often than not, when you make time to relax and nurture you, you will be in a better mental and emotional state to approach and handle those things that you must face in life, whether it's grumpy coworkers, unruly children, a daunting assignment, and yes, even the laundry. Now, once you begin to take action and you manage to get some semblance of balance in your life, please know that it will take work to maintain it. Because, see, no one sets out to live an unbalanced life. One day we're doing good and life is great. The next thing we know, we wake up and it just seems like everything is just out of whack. We have to remember that just as life continues to change and evolve, what constitutes a balanced life for you will also change and evolve. For example, 15 or 20 years ago, life balance may have meant ensuring that you didn't spend too much time at work so that you still had time to spend time with your girlfriends or doing the things that you enjoy. But see, now that you have a family, life balance may mean not only juggling between work and time for you, but also time for family and family obligations. As our lives change, so does our definition of what is balance. So it's important that we continually make an evaluation of where we are. We have to continually ask the question, how will me saying yes to this affect my life balance? Before committing to anything new, again, pray and seek God's direction. Is this something that He would have you to take on? Is there anything currently on your plate that you must say no to or cut back on in order to take on this new commitment? How will taking on this new commitment impact your life? As I stated before, it is impossible to maintain true balance in life without God directing your path. So, in order to maintain a balanced life, we have to seek God's direction daily. God gives you a fresh 24 hours each day. Each morning that you wake up, you have a choice as to how you will approach your day and what you will devote your time toward. Every morning, consult Him and ask Him what it is that He would have you to do on this day. Ask Him to lead you and order your steps as you go through your day, that you will be able to accomplish the things that He would have you to accomplish on this day. Trusting that if He leads you and He guides your day to day, that the things you accomplish will be the things that He thought necessary. And that if He takes care of you today and provides for you today, know that He will do the same for you tomorrow. And that He will do the same for you the next day and every day after that. Another important principle in maintaining a balanced life is ensuring that you include some white space in each day. Now, I know these days there aren't many people still using paper and pen to keep up with their daily calendar, but the same concept still applies. When scheduling your day, always include what I like to call white space in your day. White space is the time that isn't blocked off on your calendar, space that appears on paper calendar as white because it's free. We need to ensure that when we're scheduling our days that we don't get in the habit of booking ourselves back to back, so much that we don't even have time to breathe, let alone relax. We go from one meeting to another meeting to an appointment to the next commitment until the next thing you know, it's the end of the day, and we haven't had a free moment to even reflect on what has happened today. We have to remember that every free block of time should not automatically translate into available time. Just because there is nothing on the calendar does not automatically imply that it is available time to be booked. We all need time to decompress, meditate, reflect, and relax each and every day. Another key to maintaining a balanced life is learning to make time for the things that you enjoy. Now, the key to this is the word make. By nature, we as women, we tend to put ourselves last. We ensure that everyone and everything else is taken care of before we make time for ourselves. Unfortunately, we often learn that all there is to do is never done. So we fail to get in that time for ourselves. Please hear me when I tell you, there will always be something else that we could do or that we should do. The same way that we schedule time to get our hair done, schedule time to take the children to the dentist, and schedule meetings at work, we have to schedule time to do the things that we enjoy. We have to block it off on the calendar and mark it as busy time, and then guard that time as important as any other appointment that we put on our calendar. Ladies, if you want to maintain balance in your life, you must learn to be honest with yourself and others when asked to commit. It is far better to be honest with yourself and with others up front than to jump into something and commit only to get halfway through and to begin to feel so overwhelmed that you have to come back and say that you can't do it. Or what's even worse is that you never even admit that you've bitten off more than you can chew, so you just continue and press through to the end, but instead of doing it cheerfully, your heart is full of resentment because of how this commitment is now affecting other areas of your life. Honesty on the front end, even if it means saying no, means that everyone will be better off in the long run. So prior to committing to anything new, take time to assess what is already on your plate. Is there anything that you would need to say no to that you're currently doing in order to say yes to something new? It's perfectly okay not to commit immediately. Actually, you should probably be a little leery if somebody needs you to commit right away. Take some time and ponder the request. Count the cost. What will it cost me if I commit? What will it cost me if I don't commit? When we take time to consider our actions, it removes the impulsiveness and it allows us to make decisions that are well thought out versus decisions that are based on our emotions. As women, we tend to be emotional creatures. We want to help. We want to please, which is why we are often in a situation in which we find it hard to say no. Resist the impulse to respond right away. Instead of giving a quick answer, simply reply that you need time to think it over and that you will get back to them in a day or so. After taking time to evaluate the situation, then you're then in a position to give a well thought out response. A response that you will be less likely to regret later on. Lastly, you will find that you are often the most content in life when your actions and day to day activities line up with your core values, those things that are important to you, those things that give life meaning, and those things that define who you are. Knowing what you value and ensuring that your actions and daily life lines up with those values is key to living a life that is balanced and content. As I conclude, I want to leave you with a thought that was life altering for me in shaping my perspective regarding making commitments. The statement simply said that every decision to say yes to one thing is a decision to say no to something else. What does that mean? Well, every time you commit to one thing, you are essentially saying no to everything else that you could or would have been doing during the time that it takes to fulfill your commitment. For me, this truly helped put my decision making into perspective because now when I'm approached about things, in my mind, I am not only considering the request, but also those things that I would have to say no to in order to honor the request. Establishing and maintaining life balance requires that you take a look at both ends of the spectrum. What are the pros and what are the cons? We have to know and understand that every decision will impact your balance in one way or another. So it's important to count the costs prior to making decisions so that we're able to live with the outcome of our decisions. Ladies, I want you to know tonight that regardless of how out of sorts your life seems today, know that there is hope. You can live a balanced life. Know that it's never too late to take steps toward gaining balance in your life. Make the choice to get the balance that you deserve. Make the choice to begin living the balanced life that God intended for you to live. Take your first steps today. This concludes part 2 of this series. If you have been blessed by this webinar, I pray that you will spread the word to your family, friends, and coworkers. Take time to go out on Facebook and like my fan page. Coming this fall, the series will resume as we look at discovering your life's purpose, daring to dream again. We aren't here by happenstance. God created each and every one of us for a unique purpose, and we're going to look at how you can tap into and discover your unique God given purpose. For more information regarding Focused on Your Future LLC, or to speak with me further about how to implement these principles discussed today in your own life, I invite you to visit my website at www.focusedonyourfuture.com or to contact me via email at coacheallen@focusedonyourfuture.com. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining me for part 2 in this series. And remember, your best is yet to come. Be blessed.